Lieutenant Cooper Hayes arrived at Galvex 9 with a toolkit slung over his shoulder and a homemade sandwich wrapped in foil tucked inside his jacket pocket. The transport pod had docked with a soft hiss, its doors sliding open to reveal a sterile, blindingly white corridor that stretched before him like the inside of a bone. "Hello?" His voice echoed down the empty hallway. "Earth Maintenance Division. Here to fix your, whatever was on the work order." No response came except for the gentle hum of air filtration systems. Cooper checked his compad again, squinting at the assignment details. Galvex Administrative Center. Environmental controls malfunctioning, he muttered. Then looked up at the stark signage on the wall. Galvex 9 Biological Research Station, Omega Containment Facility. "Oh," Cooper said to no one. "Wrong address. That's new." He was about to call for a transport redirect when a klaxon suddenly blared, and a computerized voice announced, "Unscheduled arrival detected. Initiating Hellfire-level decontamination protocol." Before Cooper could protest, jets of viscous blue fluid sprayed from ceiling nozzles, coating him from head to toe. The substance tingled and then rapidly evaporated, leaving him dry but smelling faintly of burnt cinnamon. "Hey!" he shouted, wiping the residue from his eyes. "I'm just the guy who fixes flickering lights. I'm supposed to be at the admin center." A door at the far end of the corridor slid open, and a tall, willowy figure emerged. Her skin was a pale lavender, with faint, bioluminescent patterns that pulsed with each step. The insignia on her pristine white uniform identified her as the station's lead researcher. "You are not authorized to be here," she stated flatly. "This is a restricted Omega-class facility under Galactic Union jurisdiction. Identify yourself immediately." Cooper straightened his now blue-tinged maintenance jumpsuit. "Lieutenant Cooper Hayes, Earth Maintenance Division. I got the wrong drop point. Just need to call for a redirect and I'll be out of your tentacles? Sorry. Hands. Definitely hands." The scientist's eyes narrowed. "I am Dr. Zara, xenobiologist. How did you bypass our security measures? This station doesn't accept random transport coordinates." "Look, Doc, can I call you Doc? I just go where they send me. Someone probably typed a 9 instead of a 7. Cooper shifted uncomfortably under her scrutiny. "Mind if I use your comm to call for pickup? Then you can get back to your science stuff." Dr. Zara was about to respond when another alarm sounded, this one higher-pitched and more urgent. "Security breach in Sector 3, announced the computerized voice. "Containment field fluctuation detected." Her expression hardened. "Stay right here. Do not move. Do not touch anything." With that, she turned and hurried down the corridor, her white coat billowing behind her. "Sure thing," Cooper muttered. Then looked around at the empty hallway. "Guess I'll just stand here forever." The Galvex 9 station, he would soon learn, was no ordinary research facility. It was the Galactic Union's most secure containment center for entities classified as Omega-level threats, beings whose very existence challenged the fundamental laws of reality. And Cooper Hayes, with his toolkit and sandwich, had just become the first human to accidentally walk into it in over a century. After waiting what seemed like an eternity, but was actually closer to 12 minutes, Cooper decided to follow the direction Dr. Zara had taken. Not out of disobedience, but practicality. He needed to call for transport, and standing in an empty corridor wasn't getting him any closer to home. The hallway led to a security checkpoint with an unmanned console. The screens displayed various readouts of containment cells, energy barriers, and life signs. One monitor flashed red, showing a diagram of what appeared to be a damaged sensor array. "Ah," Cooper nodded knowingly. "Broken tech, my specialty." With practiced ease, he accessed the system, quickly diagnosing the problem as a faulty connection in the security grid. Simple enough. He'd fixed worse on lunar outposts with nothing but tape and optimism. He grabbed his toolkit and followed the maintenance tunnel indicators on the screen. The tunnel was cramped and dimly lit, with pipes and conduits running along the walls. Cooper crawled through until he reached a junction box marked SEC-3 Grid Control. He popped it open and immediately spotted the issue, a corroded connector that had partially melted. "Easy peasy," he murmured, pulling out his tools. Within minutes, he had replaced the connector and recalibrated the system. The indicator light on the box switched from red to green. Cooper was about to close the panel when he felt something, a presence, a shift in the air. He turned slowly, expecting to see Dr. Zara or perhaps a security officer. Instead, he found himself face to face with something that defied description. It hovered in the air, a swirling mass of iridescent particles that coalesced into a vaguely humanoid shape. Its head was crowned with crystalline protrusions, and where eyes should have been, there were only swirling vortices of dark energy. Hi there," Cooper managed, frozen in place. "I'm just the repair guy." The entity emitted a high-pitched sound that made Cooper's teeth vibrate. Then, without warning, it lunged forward, its form elongating into a sharp, spear-like projection aimed directly at Cooper's chest. He barely had time to flinch before the entity struck, passing through his jumpsuit and into his body. Cooper expected pain, searing, unbearable pain, but instead felt only a peculiar tingling sensation, like carbonation bubbling through his veins. "Tingly," he said, surprised. "Like spicy soda." The entity withdrew, its form shimmering with what appeared to be confusion. It struck again, this time aiming for Cooper's head. Again, the tingling sensation, slightly more intense but nothing close to harmful. Cooper laughed nervously. "Look, buddy, I don't know what you're trying to do, but I've got a sandwich that's getting squished in my pocket, and I'd really like to eat it before—" Alarms blared throughout the station, cutting him off. Red emergency lights bathed the tunnel in an ominous glow. "Containment breach," announced the computerized voice. "Omega entity Vasathurn has escaped confinement, initiating lockdown procedures." Cooper stared at the entity, apparently named Vasathurn, and offered a tentative smile. "So, you come here often?" Before Vasathurn could respond, if it even understood human speech. The tunnel was flooded with security personnel in heavy protective suits. They aimed weapons at both Cooper and the entity, shouting commands in multiple languages. Dr. Zara pushed her way to the front, her eyes wide with shock, when she saw Cooper standing unharmed next to one of the most dangerous beings in the facility. "How are you still alive?" she demanded. "Vasathurn dissolves souls with its venom." Cooper shrugged. "Maybe it's having an off day." "Restrain them both," Dr. Zara ordered. "Protocol 17 has been violated. No unprotected contact with Omega entities." As the security team moved in with specialized containment fields, Cooper sighed and raised his hands in surrender. His first day on this assignment was definitely not going according to plan. "Can I at least eat my sandwich first?" he asked, but no one seemed to be listening. Cooper sat on an examination table in the medical bay, various scanners and probes hovering around him like curious insects. He'd been poked, prodded, and analyzed for the past 3 hours. Yet the medical staff seemed no closer to understanding why he hadn't been affected by Vasathurn's attack. Dr. Zara stood nearby, reviewing readings on a holographic display with growing frustration. "This makes no sense," she muttered. "Your physiological readings are completely normal. No cellular degradation, no neural damage, not even elevated stress hormones." "I told you," Cooper said, biting into his now somewhat squashed sandwich. "I feel fine. Great, actually. Your cafeteria wouldn't give me anything to eat. So this ham and cheese is really hitting the spot." Dr. Zara glanced at him with a mixture of scientific curiosity and personal distaste. "You should be dead. Lieutenant Hayes. Vasthern has killed 27 highly trained Galactic Union officers, all wearing Class 10 protective gear. You were wearing cotton. Cooper shrugged, his mouth full. Lucky, I guess. There is no such thing as luck when it comes to Omega entities. There must be a scientific explanation. She tapped her datapad impatiently. The commander wants to speak with you as soon as we're finished here. Commander? Cooper swallowed hard. Look, I just want to call for a transport back to my actual assignment. I'm supposed to be fixing the climate control at the admin center, not playing lab rat in the galaxy's most intense science fair. Dr. Zara's bioluminescent patterns pulsed with what might have been amusement. I'm afraid that's not possible at the moment. Galvex 9 is under complete lockdown following the containment breach. No one in or out until we determine exactly what happened and ensure no other entities have escaped. Cooper finished his sandwich and brushed crumbs from his jumpsuit. So I'm stuck here? For how long? Until Commander Grohl decides otherwise. She turned away, instructing the medical staff to continue monitoring him. Try to rest. We'll resume testing in 2 hours. Left alone with only the quiet hum of medical equipment for company. Cooper lay back on the examination table and stared at the ceiling. He'd been in worse situations, like that time on Europa when the ice cracked beneath the outpost. But something about this place set his nerves on edge. Not the dangerous entities or the sterile environment, but the way everyone looked at him, like he was a puzzle they couldn't solve, or worse, a contaminant they couldn't eliminate. Eventually, boredom got the better of him. The medical staff had stepped out, probably to analyze his test results, leaving the door to the bay unlocked. Cooper slipped off the table and peered into the corridor. Empty. Just a quick look around, he muttered to himself. Maybe find a comm terminal. The station was massive, its corridors arranged in concentric rings around a central hub. Cooper followed the signs toward what he hoped was a communication center, but instead found himself in a long hallway lined with what appeared to be observation windows. Behind each was a containment cell, and within each cell was something. Curiosity drew him closer to the first window. Inside was a swirling vortex of flame that didn't consume fuel or produce smoke. It pulsed and writhed, occasionally forming patterns that resembled faces or complex mathematical symbols. A small plaque beside the window read, Specimen 117, Mind Furnace, Omega Class. Warning, do not maintain visual contact for more than 30 seconds. Cooper quickly looked away, moving to the next window. This cell contained what looked like a standard Earth clock, except the hands moved erratically, sometimes spinning backward or stopping entirely. The air around it seemed distorted, as if time itself was being stretched and compressed. Specimen 094, Chronoleech, Omega Class. Warning, temporal displacement field, extends 15 cm beyond containment. Cooper continued down the hallway, fascinated despite himself. Each cell contained an entity more bizarre than the last. A cloud of sentient gas that wrote poetry in condensation on its cell walls. A perfectly reflective sphere that showed viewers not their reflection, but their greatest fears. A plant-like organism whose flowers opened to reveal tiny galaxies. He was so engrossed that he didn't notice the tall, imposing figure approaching until a gruff voice barked, "Identify yourself!" Cooper spun around to face a massive being with gray, stone-like skin covered in intricate carvings that glowed with internal light. The insignia on his military-style uniform marked him as the station commander. Lieutenant Cooper Hayes, Earth Maintenance Division, Cooper replied, straightening his posture out of habit. Just, taking a self-guided tour while the medical team processes my results. I am Commander Grohl, the stone-faced officer growled. You are in a restricted area, viewing classified Omega entities without authorization. This is a violation of at least 17 Galactic Union security protocols. Cooper nodded apologetically. Fair point. In my defense, No one told me I couldn't leave the medical bay, and the door was unlocked, so... Silence! Commander Grohl's carved features couldn't show much expression, but his displeasure was evident in the way his markings pulsed angrily. You have caused enough chaos for one day. Lieutenant. First, you somehow bypass our security systems to gain entry to the station. Then, you interfere with a containment field, allowing Vasthern to escape. And now, I find you wandering freely among the most dangerous beings in the known universe. When you put it like that, it does sound bad, Cooper admitted. But I really am just a maintenance worker who got sent to the wrong place. And that Vasthern thing? It tried to kill me, but apparently couldn't. Not my fault. Commander Grohl studied him with glowing eyes. That is precisely what concerns me. Nothing should be immune to an Omega entity's abilities. It defies all scientific understanding. Before Cooper could respond, an alarm sounded, and a security team rushed past them toward the far end of the containment corridor. What now? Commander Grohl demanded into his communication device. Sir, came the response. The entity in Cell 42 is exhibiting unusual behavior. Energy readings are fluctuating wildly. Which entity is in Cell 42? Cooper asked, curiosity overcoming his sense of self-preservation. Commander Grohl ignored him, already striding toward the disturbance. Cooper, lacking better options, followed at a safe distance. They arrived at a cell near the end of the corridor. Unlike the others, this one had no observation window, only a solid metal door with multiple security locks. A team of researchers, including Dr. Zara, huddled around a monitoring station, their faces grim. Report, Commander Grohl ordered. Dr. Zara looked up, her bioluminescence dimmed with concern. It's more, sir. The entity is changing. We've never seen readings like this before. More? Cooper asked. What kind of name is that for an alien monster? Dr. Zara shot him an irritated glance. Moore is not a monster. It's a non-corporeal entity that extracts painful truths from sentient beings. And it's not changing in response to our presence. It changed when you walked past its cell. All eyes turned to Cooper, who shifted uncomfortably. I didn't do anything. I just walked by. Open a communication channel, Commander Grohl ordered. I want to know what's happening in there. A technician activated a console, and a voice filled the room, deep, resonant, and somehow both ancient and childlike simultaneously. Send in the ordinary one, Moore's voice echoed. The one who carries light without knowing it. Cooper blinked. Is it talking about me? Impossible, Commander Grohl declared. No human has ever communicated with Moore. It finds our species too simplistic to engage with. Well, I'm feeling pretty special right now, Cooper muttered. Dr. Zara stepped forward. Sir, I recommend we comply. Moore has never made a direct request before. This could provide unprecedented research data. Absolutely not, Commander Grohl replied. Moore extracts painful truths through psychic evisceration. It would destroy his mind. Cooper cleared his throat. Don't I get a say in this? Because if something wants to eviscerate my brain, I'm leaning toward a no thanks. Send in the ordinary one, Moore repeated, its voice more insistent. Or I will extract the truth from all of you at once. The monitoring equipment began to whine as energy readings spiked dangerously. The security team raised their weapons, though what good they would do against a non-corporeal entity was unclear. Sir, Dr. Zara urged, we don't have a choice. Moore can extend its influence outside the cell if provoked enough. Everyone here would be affected. Commander Grohl's stony face remained impassive, but Cooper could see the calculation in his glowing eyes, weighing one life against many. Fine. Cooper sighed before the commander could respond. I'll go in, but if my brain gets turned inside out, I'm filing a complaint with the Union. This is against protocol, Commander Grohl protested, but without conviction. My whole day has been against protocol, Cooper replied with a shrug. Might as well keep the streak going. The security team prepared the containment cell's entry protocol, explaining to Cooper that he would pass through 3 separate airlocks before reaching more. At each stage, he would be scanned and decontaminated. Any weapons or technology will be neutralized, a security officer warned. You'll enter with nothing but your clothing. Cooper nodded, handing over his toolkit. Not like a screwdriver would help against a truth-extracting ghost anyway. As he stepped into the first airlock, Dr. Zara approached him. "Why are you doing this?" she asked, genuine curiosity in her voice. "You have no obligation to risk yourself." Cooper considered the question. "Honestly, I'm curious. Also, it's not like I have many options right now. Maybe Moore can tell me how to get home." "That's surprisingly pragmatic," Dr. Zara admitted. "Most species would be paralyzed with fear." "Oh, I'm definitely scared," Cooper assured her with a lopsided smile. "I just find that being scared doesn't usually fix problems." The airlock door closed between them, and Cooper proceeded through the decontamination protocols. By the time he reached the final door, his jumpsuit had been thoroughly sanitized, and his skin tingled from the various rays and chemicals he'd been exposed to. The last door slid open, revealing a surprisingly ordinary room. It resembled a comfortable living area, with simple furniture, soft lighting, and walls painted a calming blue. In the center sat what appeared to be a gray mist, vaguely human-shaped but constantly shifting and reforming. Hello?" Cooper ventured, stepping cautiously into the room. "I'm Lieutenant Cooper Hayes. You asked to see me?" The mist swirled, condensing slightly. "Yes, the ordinary one. The one who should not be able to stand before Vasthern. The one whose light I felt even through these walls." Cooper scratched his head. "Light? I'm just a maintenance worker who got lost. Nothing special about me." "That," said Moore, its voice coming from everywhere and nowhere, "is precisely what makes you special. Sit." Cooper sat on a chair facing the misty entity. "So, do you just start extracting painful truths now? Or is there some kind of warm-up first? Should I prepare myself mentally or something?" The mist vibrated in what might have been amusement. "You fear pain, yet you came anyway. Interesting." "Well, yeah. Everyone fears pain. That's kind of the point of pain, isn't it? To be scary so you avoid it?" Moore drifted closer. "Most beings I encounter try to hide their fears, their truths. They build walls of deception, even within their own minds. You do not." Cooper shrugged. "Never seen the point in lying to myself. Life's complicated enough without adding that to the mix." "Then you are prepared for what comes next?" Moore asked, the mist darkening slightly. "Probably not," Cooper admitted. "But let's get it over with anyway." Without warning, Moore surged forward, enveloping Cooper in gray mist. It wasn't painful, not physically, but Cooper immediately felt a presence in his mind, gentle at first, then probing deeper, past his conscious thoughts, into memories he'd long buried. He saw his parents arguing, their voices muffled as young Cooper hid in his closet, clutching a stuffed dinosaur. He felt again the hollow emptiness when his father left, the confusion of splitting his life between 2 homes. He relived his first heartbreak, the crushing disappointment of academic failure, the lonely nights in his first apartment when the silence seemed to echo with all his inadequacies. Each memory surfaced with perfect clarity, each emotion as raw as when he'd first experienced it. Tears streamed down Cooper's face, though he wasn't aware of crying. Then, abruptly, Moore withdrew, the mist recoiling as if it had touched something hot. Cooper gasped, his chest heaving as he returned to the present. "What? What happened? Why did you stop?" Moore's form pulsated rapidly. "You laughed." "What?" Cooper wiped his face with his sleeve. "In every memory, even the painful ones. There was laughter afterward. Not immediately. Not always soon, but eventually. You found humor in your suffering. It makes no sense. Cooper took a shaky breath. That's just how I cope, I guess. Life's pretty absurd when you think about it. Might as well laugh. But the pain was real, Moore insisted. I felt it. Deep, genuine suffering. Yet you did not let it define you. Why? Cooper reached into his pocket and pulled out his wallet. From it, he extracted a small, somewhat crumpled photo. This is why. The photo showed Cooper kneeling beside a three-legged dog. A scruffy terrier mix with a joyful doggy grin, its tongue lolling to one side. This is Tango, Cooper explained. Found him after a shuttle crash I was called to repair. His leg was crushed under debris. The rescue team wanted to euthanize him, but I couldn't let them. Got him patched up, adopted him. He lost the leg, but you'd never know it from how he runs around. Always happy, always excited about everything. Cooper smiled at the photo. Tango taught me something important. You can lose parts of yourself and still be whole. You can face terrible things and still find joy. It's not about ignoring the pain or pretending it doesn't exist. It's about not letting it have the final word. Moore drifted closer, examining the photo. The creature has suffered loss, yet it smiles. Like you. Exactly, Cooper nodded. Pain is part of life, but it's not the whole story. The misty entity was silent for a long moment. Then, in a voice that seemed somehow smaller, I have extracted painful truths from thousands of beings across hundreds of species. None have shown me this perspective. Well, I'm nothing if not unique, Cooper joked weakly, still recovering from the emotional drain of Moore's exploration. Why do you make light of profound insights? Moore asked, genuinely curious. Cooper shrugged. Same reason, I guess. Serious things are easier to face with a smile. Suddenly, Moore's form began to pulse violently, and the entity emitted a high-pitched sound that made Cooper cover his ears. What's happening? Cooper shouted over the noise. Emotional resonance cascade, Moore explained, its voice strained. Your memories, your perspective, they are creating a feedback loop in my consciousness. I cannot process. The entity's form expanded and contracted rapidly, the gray mist darkening to near black before flashing with internal light. Cooper backed away, uncertain what to do. Should I call for help? He offered. No, Moore's voice thundered. This is necessary. I am learning. With a final, brilliant flash that temporarily blinded Cooper, Moore stabilized, the mist settling into a calmer, more defined shape, still vaguely humanoid but now with distinct features. A head, shoulders, arms. What just happened? Cooper asked, blinking to clear his vision. Moore's new form drifted closer. I have reorganized my conceptual framework. Your memories served as a catalyst for evolution. I now understand what I have been missing in my extractions. Context, hope, the possibility of growth through pain rather than mere survival of it. Cooper wasn't entirely sure what that meant, but he nodded anyway. Glad I could help, I think. You have done more than help, Moore said. You have changed me, and now I must share this revelation with the others. Others? You mean the other entities here? Yes, particularly the one you humans call the Eater of Meaning. It is time for a new approach. Before Cooper could ask what Moore meant, the containment cell's door slid open, and security personnel rushed in, weapons raised. Lieutenant Hayes, step away from the entity, Commander Grohl ordered from the doorway. Cooper raised his hands. Everything's fine. We were just talking. Moore's not hurting me. Impossible, Dr. Zara said, pushing past the security team. Our monitors showed massive energy fluctuations. By all readings, you should be in a catatonic state right now. Moore drifted forward, causing the security team to tense. The ordinary one speaks truth. I have not harmed him. I have learned from him. Commander Grohl's glowing eyes narrowed. Learned what, exactly? That extraction without understanding is meaningless. That pain without context is just cruelty. Moore turned to Cooper. I wish to change my designation. I no longer wish to extract painful truths. I wish to analyze beautiful memories. The stunned silence that followed was broken only by Cooper's awkward cough. So, does this mean I can go home now? Commander Grohl ignored him, addressing Dr. Zara instead. Is this possible? Can an Omega entity simply change its nature? Dr. Zara stared at Moore with scientific fascination. We've never considered it. Our protocols are built around containment, not rehabilitation or evolution. Because you fear what you do not understand, Moore observed. But fear prevents understanding. It is a cycle of ignorance. Cooper nodded. The misty guy makes a good point. Commander Grohl shot him a withering look. You have caused enough disruption for one day, Lieutenant. Return to the medical bay immediately for further testing. Actually, Cooper said, feeling a newfound confidence, I'd like to see more of the facility, particularly this Eater of Meaning that Moore mentioned. Absolutely not, Commander Grohl thundered. The Eater of Meaning is the most dangerous entity in this facility. No one interacts with it directly. Moore's form pulsed gently. The ordinary one may be the key to reaching it. He carries something the Eater has never encountered. And what's that? Dr. Zara asked. Acceptance of meaninglessness without despair, Moore replied. It is unique. Cooper raised an eyebrow. I'm not sure if that's a compliment or an insult, but I'm intrigued. Commander Grohl looked like he was about to explode, his carved features glowing hot with anger. This discussion is over. Lieutenant Hayes will return to the medical bay. Dr. Zara, you will continue your analysis of why Vasathurn's attack failed, and Moore will remain in containment until we determine whether this change is genuine or a new form of deception. As the security team escorted Cooper out, Moore called after him. The Eater grows hungry, ordinary one, and only meaninglessness can satisfy it. Cooper glanced back, confused, but allowed himself to be led away. Whatever an Eater of Meaning was, it didn't sound like something he wanted to meet anytime soon. Back in the medical bay, Cooper underwent another round of tests. The medical staff seemed even more confused than before, muttering about emotional resonance patterns and psychic immunity factors as they reviewed his latest scans. I'm telling you, Cooper insisted to a particularly intense technician who was measuring his brainwaves. I'm just a regular guy. The most exotic thing about me is my secret recipe for grilled cheese sandwiches. No human should be able to withstand direct psychic contact with an Omega entity. The technician replied, Yet, you've now survived encounters with two of them. There must be something unique about your neural structure. Cooper was about to reply when the lights flickered, then dimmed completely. Emergency lighting activated, bathing the medical bay in an eerie red glow. What now? Cooper groaned. The station's computerized voice announced, Power fluctuation in central containment. All personnel evacuate sectors 5 through 9 immediately. The medical staff scrambled to secure equipment and access emergency protocols. In the confusion, Cooper found himself momentarily forgotten. On impulse, he slipped from the examination table and out into the corridor. Rather than joining the personnel evacuating in one direction, Cooper headed the opposite way, toward the central containment area. He couldn't explain his decision, even to himself. It was as if something was pulling him forward, a curiosity too powerful to resist. The corridors were eerily empty as he made his way deeper into the station. Emergency lights cast long shadows, and distant alarms created a surreal backdrop to his unauthorized exploration. He found himself in a part of the station he hadn't seen before, a massive circular chamber with a single containment unit in its center. Unlike the other cells, this one wasn't made of physical walls or energy barriers. Instead, it appeared to be a perfect sphere of nothing, a void, an absence so complete it hurt the eyes to look at it directly. A plaque on a nearby console read, Specimen 001, Eater of Meaning, Omega Class. Warning, do not attempt to comprehend. Existential hazard. Well, that's not ominous at all, Cooper muttered. As if in response to his voice, the void sphere pulsed, sending a wave of emptiness through the chamber. It wasn't a physical sensation, but something deeper, as if the purpose and significance of everything momentarily vanished, leaving only hollow shells behind. Cooper staggered, gripping a console for support as the wave passed through him. For a brief, terrible moment, he felt it, the absolute meaninglessness that the entity embodied, the random, pointless nature of existence, the cosmic joke without a punchline. Then, just as quickly, the feeling passed, replaced by Cooper's natural resilience. He straightened, taking a deep breath. "That was intense," he said to the void. "Is that how you say hello?" The sphere pulsed again, but this time, Cooper was prepared. He focused on concrete thoughts, the feel of Tango's fur beneath his fingers, the taste of his mother's apple pie, the satisfaction of fixing a broken machine. A voice echoed in his mind, not heard but felt. "You resist." "Not intentionally," Cooper replied, unsure if speaking aloud was necessary, but doing it anyway. "Just being me." "Impossible. All succumb to the truth. Existence is meaningless. Purpose is illusion." Cooper shrugged. "Maybe, but meaningless doesn't have to equal miserable." The void sphere contracted slightly, as if the entity within was considering his words. "Explain." "Well," Cooper began, leaning against the console, "life might not have some grand, cosmic purpose. We might just be random collections of atoms doing random things. But we can still enjoy a good sandwich, you know? Still laugh at jokes, help others, pet dogs. The big picture might be meaningless, but the small moments, they're pretty nice." The sphere expanded suddenly, and Cooper felt a pressure in his mind. The entity was attempting to enter his consciousness, just as Moore had done. Unlike Moore's gentle exploration, however, this felt like an invasion, a tearing away of mental defenses. Cooper gasped in pain but didn't resist. Instead, he opened his memories willingly, showing the Eater of Meaning everything, the good and the bad, the joy and the sorrow. He shared the memory of his parents' divorce, but also the unexpected kindness of his math teacher, who stayed after school to help him understand algebra. He showed the crushing rejection from his dream university, but also the community college professor who became his mentor. He revealed the loneliness of his first apartment, but also the day he rescued Tango and no longer came home to emptiness. Each painful memory was paired with something that had come after, not to negate the pain, but to place it in the context of a life that continued, that found new paths forward. The pressure in his mind intensified, becoming almost unbearable. Cooper fell to his knees, tears streaming down his face. But still, he didn't try to push the entity out. Instead, he shared one last memory, sitting on his small balcony with Tango, watching a sunset, drinking cheap beer, and feeling a moment of perfect contentment despite everything. Suddenly, the pressure vanished. The void sphere contracted to half its previous size, pulsating rapidly. "Invalid data," the entity's voice resonated in Cooper's mind. "Meaninglessness should produce despair. You acknowledge meaninglessness, yet find joy." Cooper wiped his eyes, catching his breath. "Not always joy. Sometimes just acceptance. Sometimes even a weird kind of freedom." "Freedom?" "Sure," Cooper nodded. "If nothing has inherent meaning, then we get to decide what matters to us. Make our own meaning, you know?" The sphere pulsed erratically, This concept, creating meaning, it is alien to me. Well, to be fair, you're pretty alien to me too. Cooper chuckled weakly. But maybe that's okay. Different perspectives and all that. Before the entity could respond, the chamber doors burst open. Commander Groll stormed in, flanked by security personnel and Dr. Zara. "Lieutenant Hayes!" the commander bellowed. "Step away from the containment unit immediately!" Cooper raised his hands in a placating gesture. "It's okay. We're just talking philosophy." "Impossible," Dr. Zara gasped. "The Eater of Meaning doesn't talk. It destroys conceptual frameworks and induces existential despair." "Maybe it's just never had anyone to talk to before," Cooper suggested. "It seems kind of lonely, if you ask me." The void sphere pulsed once, strongly, and everyone except Cooper staggered under the wave of meaninglessness it emitted. "See?" Cooper pointed. "It agrees with me." Commander Groll recovered first, his stone face flushed with anger. "This has gone far enough. You have interfered with 3 Omega entities in less than 24 hours. You are either the greatest security breach in the history of the Galactic Union or what?" Cooper prompted when the commander hesitated. Dr. Zara stepped forward, her bioluminescence bright with excitement. "Or the most significant discovery in xenobiology since first contact. Commander, don't you see? Lieutenant Hayes isn't just immune to these entities. He's communicating with them, changing them." The void sphere pulsed again, gentler this time. The voice in Cooper's mind returned. "The concept of change applies to me?" "Of course," Cooper replied, ignoring the stunned expressions of Commander Groll and the others, as he apparently conversed with the most dangerous entity in the facility. "Everyone can change. Everyone can grow. I am not everyone. I am the Eater of Meaning. My nature is fixed." Cooper smiled. "Says who? The scientist who locked you up? The universe? Or just your own assumptions?" The sphere contracted further, now barely larger than a basketball. "Uncertain. Require contemplation." "Take your time," Cooper said encouragingly. "Existential crises usually need a while to process. Trust me, I've had a few." Commander Groll approached cautiously. "Lieutenant Hayes, what is happening? What is the entity saying to you?" Cooper turned to face him. "It's thinking about a career change. I think being the Eater of Meaning is a bit of a downer. Maybe it could try something more constructive. Like, I don't know, philosophical counseling? Facing the Void 101? Dr. Zara's eyes widened. "Are you suggesting that an Omega-class entity could be rehabilitated?" "Why not?" Cooper shrugged. "Moore's already changing. Maybe they all could, given the chance." The void sphere pulsed once more, and Cooper listened to the voice only he could hear. Then he smiled. "It wants to stay," he announced. "Not as a prisoner, but as a teacher, I guess. It says it can help beings understand and accept the inherent meaninglessness of existence without falling into despair." Commander Groll looked skeptical. "A cosmic nihilism instructor? That's absurd." "No more absurd than keeping sentient beings locked up because we don't understand them," Cooper countered. "Besides, who better to teach us about facing the void than something that is the void?" Dr. Zara stepped closer to the containment unit, studying it with newfound interest. "The research possibilities are extraordinary. If we could establish ongoing communication, learn from these entities rather than just containing them." Commander Groll's carved features settled into a grim expression. "The Galactic Union protocols are clear. Omega entities are to be contained, not collaborated with." "Maybe it's time for new protocols," Cooper suggested. "These beings have been locked up for what? Centuries. Has anyone ever just tried talking to them?" The commander didn't respond immediately. His glowing eyes focused on the contracted void sphere. Finally, he sighed, a sound like stones grinding together. "I will need to consult with Galactic Union Command." This situation is unprecedented. He turned to Cooper. Until then, Lieutenant Hayes, you will remain on this station. Your unique abilities may prove useful if any other entities become unstable. Cooper grinned. Does that mean I'm off the hook for all those protocol violations? It means your punishment is deferred, not cancelled. Commander Grohl replied stiffly. Dr. Zara, establish a research team to study this phenomenon. I want detailed reports on every interaction Lieutenant Hayes has with the entities. Yes, Commander. Dr. Zara nodded, her bioluminescence pulsing with excitement. This could revolutionize our understanding of Omega-class beings. As they left the containment chamber, Cooper cast one last glance at the void sphere, which had settled into a gentle, rhythmic pulsation. See you later, he said to the Eater of Meaning. Maybe next time we can discuss existentialism over coffee, or whatever it is you drink. The sphere pulsed once in what Cooper chose to interpret as agreement. Over the next few weeks, Galvex 9 transformed. What had once been a sterile containment facility became a hub of communication and discovery. Cooper, despite his continued protests that he was just a maintenance guy, found himself at the center of it all. Dr. Zara established what she called the Cooperative Entity Research Initiative, with Cooper as its unofficial ambassador. One by one, he met with the various Omega entities, listening to them, talking with them, finding common ground where none had been thought possible. Vasthern, the entity whose attack had started it all, turned out to be less interested in dissolving souls and more interested in the concept of physical sensation, something it lacked as a partially incorporeal being. Cooper introduced it to various textures and temperatures, from ice cubes to fuzzy blankets, watching with amusement as the crystalline entity shimmered with delight at each new experience. You know, Cooper said one day as Vasthern experimented with the sensation of carbonated water, you'd make a fantastic bartender. All about sensory experiences, mixing things together to create new feelings. The entity's crystalline form glinted in what Cooper had come to recognize as curiosity. Bartender, dispenser of beverages and conversation? Exactly, Cooper nodded. People come to bars not just for drinks, but to talk, to share stories, to connect. This concept fascinated Vasthern, who began studying human social rituals with the same intensity it had once devoted to soul dissolution. More, true to its word, shifted from extracting painful truths to analyzing beautiful memories. It became something of a therapist, helping beings process trauma by contextualizing it within their broader life experiences, a technique it had learned from Cooper. The chronoleech, once feared for its ability to create temporal anomalies, revealed that it had been trying to communicate through time manipulation, speeding up or slowing down moments to emphasize their significance. With proper communication established, it became a willing participant in experiments to understand the nature of time itself. Even the mind furnace, whose very presence had once driven researchers to madness, calmed when Cooper suggested it might be thinking too loudly, and taught it the concept of indoor voices. Commander Grohl remained skeptical, filing daily reports with Galactic Union Command and maintaining enhanced security protocols. But even he couldn't deny the results. Not a single containment breach in weeks, and unprecedented scientific discoveries being made daily. One evening, as Cooper sat in the station's cafeteria, now considerably more lively as researchers from across the galaxy requested assignments to Galvex 9, Dr. Zara joined him. The latest data is remarkable, she said, her bioluminescence bright with excitement. The entities are showing measurable changes in energy signatures, communication patterns, even basic nature in some cases. Cooper nodded, chewing thoughtfully on his dinner. They were lonely, mostly misunderstood, kind of like people. Really? Dr. Zara studied him curiously. You still haven't explained how you do it, how you're immune to their effects, How you can communicate with them when our most advanced technology couldn't." Cooper shrugged. "Honestly, Doc, I have no idea. Maybe it's because I don't expect them to make sense. Everyone else comes in with all these preconceptions about what they are and what they should do. I just take them as they come." "That's hardly a scientific explanation," she pointed out. "Not everything needs a scientific explanation to be true," Cooper replied with a smile. "Sometimes things just are what they are." Dr. Zara was about to respond when her communication device chimed. She checked it, her expression shifting to surprise. "What is it?" Cooper asked. "Commander Groll wants to see us immediately. Galactic Union Command has finally responded to our reports." They found the commander in his office, reviewing a holographic transmission. His carved features were unreadable as usual, but there was a tension in his posture that suggested the news wasn't entirely positive. "Lieutenant Hayes, Dr. Zara," he acknowledged as they entered. "The Galactic Union has reviewed our findings regarding the Omega entities and Lieutenant Hayes's unusual interactions with them. And," Cooper prompted when the commander paused, "and they are sending an inspection team. If our results can be verified, they may consider revising the Omega containment protocols across all facilities." Dr. Zara's bioluminescence pulsed with excitement. "That's wonderful news. Our research could transform how the galaxy understands and interacts with these beings." "However," Commander Groll continued, "they have also expressed concern about security. Lieutenant Hayes's influence on the entities is unprecedented and potentially destabilizing. They want assurances that we maintain control of the situation." Cooper frowned. "Control? We're not controlling anything. We're communicating, cooperating. There's a difference. The distinction may be lost on Union Command," Commander Groll replied. "They operate on protocols established after the cataclysm of Deneb. Their caution is understandable." "So what happens now?" Cooper asked. "The inspection team arrives tomorrow. Until then, maintain your routines but exercise additional caution. Union Command is particularly interested in your interactions with the entity designated Eater of Meaning." Cooper nodded, though he couldn't shake a feeling of unease. The Eater of Meaning had been the most profound transformation of all, from a being that induced existential despair in all it encountered. It had become something like a cosmic philosopher, helping others face the inherent meaninglessness of existence and find their own purpose within it. They had spent hours in conversation, Cooper sharing his life experiences, while the entity shared perspectives that spanned dimensions and epochs. Their discussions had led to breakthroughs, not just in communication, but in physics, metaphysics, and the nature of consciousness itself. "I'm sure everything will be fine," Dr. Zara assured him as they left the commander's office. "The results speak for themselves." Cooper wasn't so certain. In his experience, bureaucracies rarely cared about results when rules had been broken. That night, unable to sleep, Cooper wandered the station's corridors. He found himself, as he often did, at the central containment chamber, where the Eater of Meaning resided. The void sphere had changed dramatically over the weeks. No longer a terrifying absence, but a shimmering, galaxy-like swirl of energy that pulsed with what Cooper had come to recognize as contentment. "Can't sleep?" he asked as he entered the chamber. The entity's voice resonated in his mind. "I do not require sleep, but I understand the concept of restlessness." "Yeah, that's it exactly. Restless." Cooper sat on the floor near the containment field, which had been modified to allow for conversation while maintaining safety protocols. "The big bosses are coming tomorrow. I'm worried they won't understand what we've been doing here. Understanding requires openness. Fear closes minds." Cooper chuckled. "Look at you, all wise and stuff. Remember when you were just about eating meaning and making people despair?" The entity's swirl pattern shifted in what Cooper had learned was its version of laughter. "I remember. It was limiting." That's what I'm afraid of, Cooper admitted. That they'll want to limit you again. Limit all of you. Limitation is part of existence, but so is change. Cooper nodded thoughtfully. You know, I had an idea. It's probably against about 1 million protocols. But what if we showed them rather than told them? Let them experience what we've created here. A demonstration? Exactly. Something that makes it impossible to ignore the progress we've made. The entity's swirl patterns accelerated. What do you propose? Cooper grinned. How do you feel about becoming a bartender for a day? The inspection team arrived with all the warmth and flexibility of an automated tax audit. 5 representatives from Galactic Union Command, each from a different species, but all wearing identical gray uniforms, with too many insignias for Cooper to count. Their leader, a tall, spindly being with 4 arms and compound eyes, introduced himself as Inspector Krell. We are here to evaluate the situation with the Omega entities and determine whether protocols have been violated, Krell announced after cursory introductions. We will require full access to all containment cells and research data. Commander Grohl nodded stiffly. Of course, Inspector. Dr. Zara will provide all necessary documentation, and Lieutenant Hayes is available to demonstrate his interactions with the entities. Inspector Krell's compound eyes swiveled to Cooper. Ah, yes, the human maintenance worker who has allegedly befriended Class Omega threats to galactic security. Most irregular. Cooper offered his hand, then awkwardly withdrew it when he realized the inspector wasn't going to shake it. Nice to meet you too. And they're not threats anymore. That's kind of the whole point. We shall make that determination ourselves, Krell replied coldly. Now, let us begin with the standard inspection protocols. What followed was a day of excruciating bureaucracy. The inspection team reviewed documentation, interviewed staff, and observed the entities from a distance, all while making notes on their datapads and speaking in hushed tones among themselves. They seemed particularly disturbed by the modifications that had been made to the containment cells, the addition of communication systems, recreational items, and, in some cases, reduced security measures. This is completely against Union protocols, one inspector complained, pointing to a collection of art supplies in Moore's cell. Omega entities should not have access to potential weapons. Moore is using those to create visual representations of the memories it analyzes, Dr. Zara explained patiently. It's a form of therapeutic expression. The inspector made another note on her pad. Therapeutic expression is not a recognized containment strategy. By late afternoon, Cooper was ready to scream in frustration. The inspection team had systematically missed the point of everything they'd accomplished, focusing entirely on protocol violations rather than outcomes. As they gathered in a conference room for yet another debriefing, Cooper caught Dr. Zara's eye and gave a subtle nod. She returned it with a barely perceptible smile. Before we conclude today's inspection, she said to the team, we've prepared a small demonstration of the progress we've made. If you'll follow me to Recreation Area 7? Inspector Krell's antennae twitched suspiciously. Recreation area? There was no recreation area in the original facility blueprints. It's a recent addition, Commander Grohl explained, looking slightly uncomfortable but playing along. Part of the new approach. The inspection team followed Dr. Zara through the station to what had previously been an unused storage bay. As the doors slid open, they revealed a space transformed. Soft lighting illuminated what appeared to be a lounge or bar area, with comfortable seating, ambient music, and a long counter behind which stood Vasthern. The crystalline entity shimmered as it manipulated containers of colorful liquids, its form more defined and stable than ever before. Around the room, other entities mingled with station staff. Moore drifted between groups, its misty form now a pleasant silver blue as it facilitated conversations. The mind furnace hovered near a corner, projecting gentle patterns of light that changed in response to the music. Even the chronolique was present, contained within a modified field that allowed it to create small, harmless, temporal effects that resembled animated art installations. And at the center of it all, floating in a specially designed containment sphere that allowed it to move around the room, was the Eater of Meaning, now resembling a miniature galaxy of swirling lights rather than a terrifying void. The inspection team froze in the doorway, expressions ranging from shock to horror. "What is the meaning of this?" Inspector Krell demanded. "These entities should be in secure containment." Cooper stepped forward, wearing what he'd managed to fashion into a bartender's apron. "They are contained, just differently. Welcome to Galvex Bar and Grill, minus the grill part. We're still working on that. Would you like a drink?" "This is outrageous," another inspector sputtered. "These are Omega-class threats." "We're threats," Cooper corrected. "Now they're evolving, changing, learning to exist alongside us rather than against us." Dr. Zara joined him. "We've maintained all essential safety protocols, Inspector, but we've found that communication and cooperation yield better results than isolation and fear." Commander Grohl, looking decidedly uncomfortable but committed to the demonstration, added, "The incident rate has dropped to 0. Scientific discoveries have increased by 342%, and staff morale is at an all-time high." Vas Thurn glided forward, offering a tray of drinks that shimmered with the same iridescence as its crystalline form. "Sensory experience enhancement beverages," it announced in a voice that sounded like wind chimes. "Non-toxic to all known species." The inspectors backed away, but Cooper took one of the drinks and sipped it. Spicy mango with a hint of stardust? You're getting better at this, Vas." The entity's crystals glinted with pride. Inspector Krell's compound eyes darted around the room, taking in the impossible scene before him. This is not protocol. This is not how Omega entities behave. Maybe because no one ever gave them the chance to behave any other way, Cooper suggested. "Look, I know this seems crazy. A month ago, I would have thought so too. But these beings aren't just threats to be contained. They're individuals, with thoughts and feelings and the capacity to change." The Eater of Meaning drifted closer, its swirling galaxy-like form pulsing gently. The voice that emanated wasn't just in Cooper's mind this time, but broadcast through a communication system so all could hear. "Existence has no inherent meaning. This is the truth I once used to create despair. But now I understand. Lack of inherent meaning is freedom to create your own purpose." One of the younger inspectors, who had been quiet until now, stepped forward hesitantly. You're the Eater of Meaning, the entity that drove 17 researchers to suicide during the Ganymede incident?" I am no longer that being, through conversation and connection. I have evolved." The inspector looked at Cooper. "How is this possible?" Cooper shrugged. "Turns out, most problems can be solved by listening and a little kindness, even cosmic, existential ones." Moore drifted to join them, its misty form swirling around the inspectors in a non-threatening display. "We were isolated, misunderstood. Your fear became our prison, and our prison reinforced your fear. The Ordinary One showed us another way." "The Ordinary One," Inspector Krell repeated. "He means me," Cooper explained. "I'm just a guy who fixes things. Turns out, some things need different kinds of fixing." For the next hour, the inspection team cautiously interacted with the entities, asking questions, observing demonstrations of their changed abilities, and gradually, visibly relaxing as they realized that no existential threats were forthcoming. Cooper moved between groups, facilitating conversations, explaining the journey they'd been on. He found Inspector Krell standing alone, watching the Eater of Meaning as it engaged in a philosophical discussion with two of his team members. Pretty amazing, right? Cooper said, joining him. Krell's antennae twitched. It defies all established understanding of Omega entities. Maybe our understanding was incomplete, Cooper suggested. Maybe isolation isn't the answer to things we don't understand. The protocols exist for a reason. Lieutenant Hayes, the cataclysm of Deneb was a tragedy. I know, Cooper nodded. But maybe it happened because we never tried to communicate. Because we jumped straight to containment and control. Krell was silent for a long moment. His compound eyes, reflecting the swirling patterns of the Eater of Meaning. I have spent my entire career enforcing these protocols. To consider that they might be fundamentally flawed. Not flawed, Cooper said gently. Just incomplete. There's room for both caution and connection. Their conversation was interrupted by a commotion near the bar. Vasthern had created a drink that changed color in response to the drinker's emotional state, and several staff members were laughing as their beverages shifted through a rainbow of hues. They're happy, Krell observed, sounding puzzled. Working alongside entities that once inspired terror. Turns out fear is usually based on what we don't understand, Cooper replied. And understanding starts with listening. By the end of the evening, the atmosphere had transformed. The inspection team, while still maintaining professional distance, had visibly softened. They asked questions out of genuine curiosity rather than suspicious interrogation. They even, eventually, accepted drinks from Vasthern. As the demonstration concluded, and the entities returned to their modified containment areas, now more like living quarters than cells, Inspector Krell approached Commander Groll, Dr. Zara, and Cooper. This situation is unprecedented, he began formally. Nothing in our protocols addresses the possibility of Omega entities evolving in this manner. Does that mean you'll shut us down? Cooper asked bluntly. Krell's antennae twitched in what might have been amusement. On the contrary, Lieutenant Hayes, I believe we need to create new protocols. What you've achieved here is extraordinary. It deserves further study, not suppression. Dr. Zara's bioluminescence brightened with excitement. You'll recommend continuing our research? Under certain conditions, yes. Krell nodded. Safety measures must remain in place, and changes must be gradual, documented, and reversible if necessary. But the potential benefits, scientific, philosophical, even spiritual, cannot be ignored. Commander Groll's stony features relaxed slightly. The Galactic Union will support this new approach. I will advocate for it, Krell replied, though I suspect there will be resistance from traditionalists. Change is never easy, especially for bureaucracies. Cooper grinned. Tell me about it. I just wanted to fix a climate control system, and somehow ended up starting an interspecies communication revolution. Krell's compound eyes fixed on Cooper. That brings me to another matter. Your assignment, Lieutenant Hayes. It seems the transport error that brought you here was more fortunate than anyone could have anticipated. Yeah, well, I still need to get back to my regular job eventually, Cooper said, though with less conviction than he once might have. Perhaps, Krell said, but I believe your talents would be better utilized here. The entities respond to you in a way they respond to no one else. With your permission, I will recommend your permanent assignment to Galvex 9 as our first Omega Entity Liaison Officer. Cooper blinked in surprise. That's not a real job title, is it? It is now, Krell replied, with what might have been a smile, though it was hard to tell with his alien features. Sometimes, new situations require new roles. Over the following months, Galvex 9 transformed from a secretive containment facility into the Galactic Union's premier research center for entity communication and cooperation. Scientists and diplomats from across the galaxy visited to observe and learn from what was now called the Hayes Method, much to Cooper's embarrassment. The containment cells were completely redesigned into specialized habitats that met each entity's needs while allowing for safe interaction. Moore established a therapy program, helping beings process trauma through memory contextualization. The chronoleech collaborated with physicists to explore the nature of time. The mind furnace worked with artists to create experiences that expanded consciousness without inducing madness. And at the center of it all was Cooper's brainchild, the cosmic bar, a gathering place where entities and organic beings could interact in a controlled but comfortable environment. Vasa Thurn served as head bartender, creating drinks that enhanced sensory experiences and facilitated communication across species barriers. The Eater of Meaning, now calling itself Philosopher, floated behind its own special counter, where beings could discuss the deepest questions of existence while sipping beverages designed to complement existential contemplation. Cooper himself spent less time fixing machinery and more time as a bridge between worlds, introducing new visitors to the entities, mediating discussions, and occasionally stepping in when cultural misunderstandings arose. One evening, as the bar was closing after a particularly successful diplomatic visit, Cooper found himself alone with Dr. Zara, who had become not just a colleague, but a friend. "Did you ever imagine it would come to this?" she asked, her bioluminescence glowing softly in the dimmed light. "When you first arrived here by mistake?" Cooper laughed, shaking his head. "Never in a million years. I thought I'd fix whatever was broken and be on my way within hours. Instead, you fixed something no one even knew was broken," she observed. "Our approach to beings we didn't understand. I still don't really get why I was able to do it when no one else could," Cooper admitted. "I'm nothing special." "Perhaps that's precisely why," Dr. Zara suggested. "You approach them without preconceptions, without fear. You saw them as beings first, threats second." Cooper nodded thoughtfully. "Maybe. Or maybe the universe just has a weird sense of humor, sending a maintenance guy to fix cosmic entities." "Speaking of maintenance," Dr. Zara said, "did you ever fix the climate control system at the administrative center? The one you were originally sent to repair?" Cooper's eyes widened. "Oh, damn. I completely forgot about that." He burst into laughter, and after a moment, Dr. Zara joined him, her bioluminescence flickering with amusement. From behind the bar, Vas Thurn watched them with crystalline curiosity. "I do not understand the humor in neglected maintenance." "It's not about the maintenance," Cooper explained, wiping tears of laughter from his eyes. "It's about how the smallest mistakes can lead to the biggest changes. If I'd gone to the right place that day, none of this would have happened." The entity considered this. Random chance creating meaningful outcomes. Perhaps the philosopher would say this illustrates how we create significance from chaos. "Maybe," Cooper agreed. "Or maybe some things are just funny." As they prepared to leave, Cooper paused by the bar's entrance, looking back at the space they had created, a place where once feared entities now peacefully interacted with the beings who had imprisoned them, where understanding had replaced fear, and connection had replaced containment. Above the entrance, a small sign displayed the bar's official motto, written in Cooper's own handwriting: "Tell me your horror, I'll trade you toast." It wasn't profound philosophy or advanced science that had changed everything. It was simply the willingness to listen, to accept, to find humor in the darkness, and to share a metaphorical sandwich with whoever or whatever might be hungry. As Cooper turned out the lights, he thought of Tango waiting for him in his new quarters, probably curled up on his bed despite having a perfectly good dog bed of his own. Some things, it seemed, were universal. Whether you had 2 legs, 3, or existed as a conceptual entity beyond physical form, everyone needed connection. Everyone needed understanding. And sometimes, the most ordinary person could make the most extraordinary difference, just by being willing to see beyond the surface, to listen without judgment, and to offer friendship where others had only shown fear. "Good night," Cooper called to the empty bar, though he knew the entities, in their own way, could still sense his presence. "See you all tomorrow. I'll bring bagels." And somewhere in the quietness of the station, as staff slept and entities rested in their own unique ways, the Eater of Meaning, now philosopher, contemplated the strange journey that had led them all here. In the vast meaninglessness of an indifferent universe, beings of all kinds had found a way to create purpose together. It was, perhaps, the most meaningful meaninglessness of all. And that, Cooper would say, was worth toasting to.